I'm not. I can't afford to not record. Welcome to season 6 of the Be Your Own Kind podcast, where we believe that you deserve the space to just be. I'm so excited to share another season with you, packed with fresh perspectives, practical tools, and inspiration to enhance your already amazing self. I hope you enjoy the new content just as much as I've loved bringing it to you. Stay inspired and always remember to be your own kind. Hi, Jeff. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, pretty well. Thank you so much for being a guest on Be Your Own Kind. We really do appreciate having you here, especially talking about meditation and how to woosah. That's really important, right?
Yeah. I look forward to being here and chatting with you and kind of getting to know you a little bit.
Yeah, same here. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, I've been running a meditation martial arts academy here in Portland, Oregon now for 30 years. It's been a big part of my life now for about 36 years. I've been training in the meditative arts. And through the years, I've had some really great experiences with students here at the academy. I've had over 26,000 students come through the school, and through seeing all of these students, I've heard hundreds of stories of how the meditative arts has positively influenced people's lives, and that's kind of been my main motivation and driver to uh, write my last couple books and create my online meditation program and really try to get this word out there of the benefits of the practice, because it's pretty inspiring to see how it can positively influence people and turn their lives around.
Love that, love that, love that. So I guess this kind of segues into the first question of what mindset shifts have been most impactful for you on your journey.
It's been many things, and I got introduced to the meditative arts in at a pretty young age, and when I was first brought to the idea of doing meditation, I didn't want to do it at all. I had no desire of doing Tai Chi or meditation or anything like it. I was very much into Western boxing, and I actually used to train at a boxing gym just a few blocks down the street here from my academy. And at a boxing gym, it's a lot different than your traditional fitness style class, and that usually there's four or five coaches running around, and each one of those coaches might have four or five fighters that they're working with. It's not the kind of thing where 30 people come and they all work with the same coach. And so
Right.
I would always show up at the gym where there's one coach there who had created national world champion level fighters. So I'd always kind of show up when I knew he was going to be there and try to get him to notice me and see if he'd spend some time with me. And I followed him around for about 3 or 4 months, and finally he started showing me a few things and helping me out with my boxing, and everything he gave me, I treated it like it was gold. I put every ounce of effort into what he was telling me to do, and I would do more than he would tell me to do, and just really show him that I was there to work. And it was only about 2 or 3 weeks of getting to work with him when he said something to me that changed my life forever. In that he said, if you really want to be good at boxing, you should start doing meditation and Tai Chi. Now, at the time, I'm this 19-year-old kid thinking, isn't Tai Chi for old people in the park? How's that going to make me a better fighter? And I had a lot of respect for him, though. And like I said, I valued everything he told me. And it's changed my life in so many ways. It's influenced the way I think about relationships and about my own personal relationship with myself. It's influenced the way I communicate with people. It's improved my creativity. So just so many different things. And through having so many students come through the academy, I've been fortunate to witness all of these amazing stories and transformations that students have had through the years. So it's really been inspiring to be able to, one, practice this art, but also to be able to hand it down to so many people.
Yeah, that's very that's wow. That is impactful because I feel like people think that meditation is only just for calming down your nerves, and I've read a little bit into it, and it's not just for that. It's actually, like you said, helps you with different facets of your life as well. So sometimes when you need a boost of energy, I read it's a meditation for that. Like you said, if you want to unleash creativity, it's a type of meditation for that. Even dancing kind of bring some type of relaxation to the body. So it is so many different methods and ways to meditation that I find very interesting.
Yeah, so I break down kind of the directions of practice in the meditation into five kind of pillars. And there
Okay.
is what I call the athletic side, and where it's a lot of athletes will practice to improve their performance, their timing, and their ability to be more present in their sensitivity and awareness, all these things that help make them a higher level player in whatever sport they're doing. And then there's
Okay.
the therapeutic side of the practice. And the therapeutic side is great for our mobility and our strength and helping us recover from injuries and those kinds of things. And then there's the medical side, and all of Chinese medicine is based off of Qigong theory. So this is a very deep path to follow. And then there is the philosophical side, which again is a very deep path. And this talks about life virtue and different ways to kind of strategically think and guide your thoughts and just kind of be more aware of how to control our thoughts and our actions. And then lastly, there is the spiritual side of the practice, which is for bringing that peace and that centered feeling and that more kind of present state of mind and being peaceful. And so within those five different paths, it usually could fit anybody's lifestyle, and anybody could get a lot of benefits from adapting this practice into their life.
Yeah, I love that. So you're saying so the five different pillars, can you sometimes what's the question? Simultaneously um practice more than one at a time? Like can you do a couple of pillars at the same time?
Well, yeah, and a lot of people do. And
Okay.
one of the things with meditation is that a lot of the underlying principles with meditation are the foundational principles for all five of those pillars. So as you start to build a practice, you're laying the groundwork to kind of be solid in all of those areas. So if you want to branch out more than one, that's pretty easy to do that.
Okay, okay, cool. Now I know you have a yielding warrior program. That's separate from the five pillars, or is that
Well, so that's part of it, right? So in
okay?
my yielding warrior program is an online membership program, and it teaches people how to use the meditative arts to build an evolving life practice with meditation.
Mhm.
Because uh, there's, as we've already kind of talked about, there's different paths we can follow. There's also a lot of different practices that we can integrate into our life to bring meditation to our lives. And we have like movement practices like Tai Chi or Qigong or yoga. There's still practices, sitting meditation, standing meditation, there's walking meditations, there's breath work, there's different energetic circulations that we do in the body. There's so many different things and ways that we can integrate these practices. I teach people how to use what I call ritual, active, and philosophical based practices to build that evolving life practice. And a ritual practice is where you set time aside every day and do a 20-minute session, an hour session, whatever that is for you. And then active practices are ways that you can integrate these things into your daily activities. And you can do them when you're walking down the street or standing in line at the grocery store. There's many ways that we can use these skills to maintain that present state of mind and that awareness and that sensitivity in other things that we're doing. And the meditative arts is meant to be a way of life and not a hobby that we do once in a while. And so these active practices are very helpful for that. And then lastly, there's the philosophical practices, which can be used in the active methods as well as the ritual methods.
Okay. And what differentiates, can't say that word, your program from any other meditation program?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we don't focus on any one method. We teach
Okay.
people kind of the science behind meditation and how to use movement practices, still practices, breath work, how to do different philosophical practices to um, get in the right mindset to build an evolving life practice. Because, meditation is you don't start one practice today and never evolve. You're always growing, you're always seeing things at deeper levels. And so having a practice that can help you evolve and move towards the direction that you want to go is very important, and one of the things that I see happening a lot out there is, you could go onto YouTube and see a million different videos of this practice and that practice. There's all these different audio programs, and
Mm-hmm.
people get lost in the mix of all the stuff that's out there. And I'm not saying that none of that is any good, but if you don't have somebody to help guide you on a path and show you the shortest approach to get there, you could waste years of time going down a road that might not even fit what you're looking to do. I've had students come into the academy that have been practicing the meditative arts and have been self-taught, and they've been doing it for 15, 20 years. And they'll sometimes see a student who's only been here for a year and a half, who's more depth and understanding into the practice because they've had a guide and they'd have somebody to help them. And, life is short, your time is valuable. Finding somebody to help kind of point you on the right direction is pretty easy to do, and
Mm-hmm.
well worth your time to accomplish whatever it is you're looking to do by integrating meditation into your life.
Yeah, that's pretty important. I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that some people can practice meditation for a lot of years and still not find that center. That's interesting.
Oh yeah. And
Mm.
the thing is that there's so many practices out there that a lot of times people, one of the most common things I've heard people say is that, I tried meditation, but it just didn't work for me. I couldn't quiet my mind. And, meditation isn't meant to be this thing where we're in this state of nirvana and nothing bothers us. I've been traveling around the world for the last 36 years studying the meditative arts. I've met some
Hmm.
amazing meditation practitioners, and I have never once met anybody who doesn't get distracted when we meditate. Everybody does. It doesn't matter what level you are. I mean, we're human. That's just kind of the way things are. But
Hmm.
the idea is, say I'm doing a meditation practice, whether it's a sitting practice or a movement practice like a Qigong set or a Tai Chi form, and I do that for 20 minutes, and I get distracted 50 times during that session. Every time I get distracted, I recognize the imbalance. I use my posture, my breath, the movement, if it's a movement practice, to help bring myself back to center. And now I just did two things. One is I recognized where I'm getting off track. And pretty soon you recognize these imbalances right when they first happen rather than a minute, 10 minutes a day down the road. And then I use the tools that I'm cultivating by integrating meditation into my life to help bring myself back to the present and focus. And now I just got 50 repetitions of this in 20 minutes. And if I do that every day, every month, every year, I start to develop this strength and this power to where it doesn't matter if somebody says something to throw me off my game or I have a stressful day at work. I'm able to recognize these imbalances and bring myself back to center. And you almost get to the point where you feel unshakable because you can always stay more balanced with, I mean, I'm not saying that you're going to be this person who never gets out of center, but the idea is that you don't get waste 2 weeks stressing over something when you recognize it from the beginning and we turn track after 10 seconds. It saves us a lot of heartache by being able to make these adjustments. And, this is when we're talking about this, we're kind of talking about regulating the mind, which is one of the regulations in a meditation practice. We have 5 basic regulations when we're doing meditation. We have regulating the body, regulating the breath, regulating the mind, regulating the energy, and regulating the spirit. Now, with any practice, whether you're doing a sitting meditation, a movement practice, a yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, whatever it is, you're going to cultivate these 5 pillars as kind of a foundation for your practice. And real briefly, I'll describe what they are. So, when I talk about regulating the body, this is your skeletal alignment, your muscular tension, and it affects your overall physical, mental, and emotional states throughout the day. An example of that would be, think about if you're sitting down at your computer for 3 or 4 hours and your shoulders are rounded forward and you're starting to feel lethargic, and maybe your neck's getting sore, and all these things are starting to kind of make you feel depleted. And then think about another time when the most important person in your world walks in the room and you perk up and you feel great and your energy's high. These 2 different states we're in 100% control of all day, every day. And when we can learn to regulate the body and our tension throughout the day, we can control this and really affect our physical, mental, and emotional states. Then we have regulating the breath. And regulating the breath is a very deep topic, and it's something that you'll practice for the rest of your life if you get into the meditative arts. And in fact, Qigong is often referred to as the science of the breath because there's literally hundreds of different breathing strategies and different ways that we use the breath. And because of that, we kind of broadly categorize them into yin methods and yang methods. Yin methods are often deeper, more holistic style of meditations where it's great for dealing with stress, anxiety, improving your focus. An example of a yin breath would be if you ever listen to somebody sleep, their natural breathing pattern is a longer inhale and a shorter exhale. And this is the body's natural way of bringing our conscious mind into our subconscious mind, which is where we are when we're sleeping and dreaming. So, if we want to emulate that style of the breath in our meditations, we can do longer inhales, maybe soft retentions at the end of the inhale, and this will help us to bring that energy inward. Then we have the yang side of the breath. The yang side of the breath is more aggressive. It's kind of like if you've ever had to push your car or you pick up something heavy, your natural instinct is use the exhale, put tension in the breath, make it audible. It helps generate that power and energy. Now, when we can understand how to use the breath as a strategy, now we can adjust our physical, mental, and emotional outcomes throughout the day. And then Chinese philosophy, they call this balancing the kan and li. So, we all go through the day with emotional ups and downs. Some people are like a roller coaster, others may be a little bit more balanced. But when you start to recognize these imbalances and you understand how to use the breath, when you see yourself getting excited, we can use the yin breath to help bring it back down. When you see yourself starting to feel depleted, we can use the yang side of the breath to help energize us and bring us back up. And so this can help us maintain a more balanced equilibrium throughout the day, which helps gives us a lot of energy and power. Then we have regulating the mind, which we kind of briefly touched on when we started talking about distractions. There's this story that I really enjoy about these 2 older monks, and they're walking down this dirt road after a big rainstorm, and everything's muddy everywhere. And they come up to this huge mud puddle. And on the other side of the puddle is this beautiful girl. She's standing there in a white dress and she's crying. And the older monk, he yells across the puddle and says, "Is everything okay? Can we help you?" And she says, "I need to be somewhere. And if I walk across this puddle, I'm going to get my dress all dirty." So the older monk, he rolls up his pant legs and he walks across the puddle and he picks her up, puts her on his back, takes her to the other side, sets her down, and she's off on her way. Well, him and the younger monk are walking a couple miles down the road. And finally, the younger monk is just furious. And he says, "You know, we're not supposed to touch girls, but yet you did back there at the puddle." And the older monk looks down and says, "You're still thinking about that girl? I left her back there at the puddle." And how many times in life do we get 2 miles down the muddy road before we finally let something go? And
Wow.
with the meditative arts, it helps us recognize these imbalances when they first happen, so we don't have to wait 3 weeks to let it go. And so it's a really powerful tool. The Dalai Lama once said that everybody should meditate for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy, then you should meditate for an hour. And I love that because there's so many benefits from the practice that everybody could benefit. And I truly believe that if everybody meditate, the world would be a much better place. And then the fourth pillar is regulating the energy. And this is an extremely deep topic and something that we could literally talk about for hours. But a basic idea of it is once you've reached a competent level in regulating the body, the breath, and the mind, you have the tools and the ability now to regulate and circulate the energy in the body. And so we'll learn to lead the energy inward, expand the energy outward, do different circulations to get different outcomes. And then that's kind of the basics of that. And then lastly, we have regulating the spirit, which is very deep and profound. And a lot of meditation masters and practitioners will spend their entire life journey striving for that level of enlightenment. And so through these five pillars, they're the foundation of any meditation practice. And when you start cultivating these areas, they affect everything in life.
Wow, everything you said was so powerful. Like that's a lot to unpack. I love the story about the girl. Just the simple fact that you're right. Something will happen today, and it'll still be on our minds a month from now. And it's like, how much space have you occupied in your brain for that 5 minute happening that happened today, 3 weeks from now? So you
Right.
are right. And then over time, you're just tense and tense. You get like your mind makes it worse. Like it's a snowball of emotions. When, like you said, you could have just addressed it like with after those 5 minutes. And it seemed like it's a training because this is something that you have to kind of get used to before it becomes automatic for you to practice. Correct.
It definitely is a life practice. Meditation's not meant to be a hobby, it's meant to be a way we live, and that's why
Hmm.
we learn how to integrate these practices into everything we do. Because it doesn't make any sense to sit somewhere for 20 minutes or an hour or do your Tai Chi form and feel great and peaceful, and then the whole rest of the day to be living in stress and anger and frustration. So we
Hmm.
want to we want to learn how to integrate these things in everything we do.
I love that. I love that. So, well, you might have already answered this, but I'll ask it just in case you have something extra. What advice would you give to someone just starting their journey towards resilience and self discovery?
So that's a great question, and oftentimes I'll have people that come in here, and as a teacher, one of my biggest challenges is getting people to understand the benefits and to make the life changes and develop the discipline to do this practice consistently so they can reap the benefits of the practice. Because, I mean, as I'm sure you can tell, I'm a true believer in this, but it's hard no matter how much I'm for it and I believe in it. I can't do the work for you. And if you're going to experience the benefits from it, I've got to figure out how to get you on track and to get you to where you make it part of your lifestyle. And what I've found through teaching for the last 30 years is there's three things that I always try to make very clear when somebody new comes to the practice. And the first thing is, why are you coming to the practice? You need to sit down and think about what's drawing you to meditation. Do you want to stay healthy and vibrant and flexible and strong so you can watch your grandkids grow up? Are you dealing with stress and anxiety and you need a way to cope with these things and find a way to live more peacefully? Or are you an athlete maybe and you want to improve your performance on the field. Whatever that is for you, if you have a strong why and a need to do the practice, that's going to give you the energy and the drive to get up and do the practice every day and to integrate it into your life, and is very important, because it doesn't matter who we are. There's going to come the day where maybe tomorrow, next week, next year, where your alarm's going to go off and it's time to get up and do your practice, and you're going to be like, I'll just hit the snooze button and I'll do it tomorrow. And if you have a strong why, now you switch from thinking, oh, I got to do my meditation today, to, hey, I get to do my practice today. I'm seeing so many benefits from it. This is something I'm looking forward to. I got to find a way to fit it in my day. And when you can have that kind of energy and enthusiasm for the practice, your whole life will change. You know, through the years, in teaching so many students, the students that I have come in here that actually listen to my recommendations of doing at least a 20-minute a day ritual and integrating active practices into their life, and they do that every day for a year, they'll do this practice for the rest of their life 98% of the time, because they'll see so many benefits from it that they're be crazy to stop. And then the next thing, which we already kind of touched on, is really stressing and understanding the importance of consistency, because you need to do a little bit every day. And it doesn't mean that you need to retire to a cave and meditate for the rest of your life. But if we just integrate this stuff into our day, through the consistency, we develop discipline, we gain this integrity, we gain this perseverance. And these things and these qualities that we get from our meditation practice start to feed over in everything we do in life, through our relationships, our work, our hobbies, everything. And so these two things are very important. And then thirdly, which we already touched on, is you got to find a guide, because you could spin the wheels for many years and be lost on different paths. And having somebody to help show you the shortest path to where you want to go means everything. You know, I often tell people to that are considering doing the practice and maybe thinking that they're going to do it on their own by reading books or watching YouTube videos. I tell them to think about, if I took you to a basketball court and you've never watched the game of basketball, you didn't know you're supposed to dribble the ball, you didn't know the ball goes in the hoop, and I take you there, I hand you a ball and I say, go play basketball, you're going to be horrible. But if I take you to that court and I give you a world-class coach and I say, go train with this person for 6 months, you could accomplish a lot in 6 months. There's a lot of good meditation teachers out there. There's a lot of different programs that you can get involved with that can help you accomplish a lot in a short amount of time. But if you try to do it on your own, I've seen thousands of students come through the door, and I've never once witnessed anybody that sees a lot of success trying down that path.
And see, this is my first time even hearing about a guy, because there's so many apps as well. I've practiced the tapping solution, and then there's like Calm. I think that's another app. So I don't know if AI or technology is now the new guide. So it's different. This is interesting and different for me to hear, like a person actually being your guide during the process.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because while I believe that apps and videos could be a very good learning tool and a way for you to get information, but here's the problem, is that so many people use these apps and these videos as a crutch. And every time they do their practice, they're listening to an audio program or they're watching a video. And, you know, the meditative arts are often referred to as the internal arts for a reason. It means that you're supposed to turn your focus inward. And if you're listening to an audio or you're watching a video when you're supposed to be meditating, you're not really going to be in a place where you can really connect and get to that deep level of sensitivity and feeling. Now, that said, some of these apps and some of these videos are great tools to help us learn. And there's some great teachers that teach through apps and through videos out there. But we don't want to use that for a crutch, and it's not a replacement for our ritual practice every day. It's just a tool to help us learn. And so many people that I talk to that say they meditate, they get to where they're using this as a crutch, and they think, well, that's all I need. I just listen to my app every day. And I think that they're a little bit, and this comes from them not having a guide, not having somebody to point them in the right direction, because I don't think that there's a skilled meditation teacher on the planet that would tell somebody to skip their ritual practice and just listen to apps and watch videos all the time. And so I just think it's kind of a little bit of a lack of understanding, but that's why one of the reasons why a guide is so important, because they can help you avoid a lot of those things that can actually slow you down.
That's good. Thanks for sharing that. That's really insightful to me. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and how the listeners can grab a book for free?
Yeah, sure. So my book's called The Yielding Warrior, and yielding is a really cool concept. It's something that's been around in the meditative and martial arts for generations. If you'd like to check out a copy of it, you can get it at theyieldingwarrior.com/book, and I'll send you a free copy. You just pay for shipping and handling. The idea behind yielding is there's three basic pillars of yielding. There's physical yielding, mental yielding, and emotional yielding. Physical yielding is the idea that I push you, you push me, whoever's the bigger, stronger person with the most leverage eventually is going to push the other person over. But with yielding, instead of us trying to see who the bigger meathead is, when you push me, I get out of the way of that force. And now I can respond with less effort. So I'm not trying to butt heads with you and see if I'm bigger and stronger than you. And this is so important in any kind of athletics, because it doesn't matter what sport you play, there's going to be times where you come up against bigger, stronger people. And understanding how to use this concept of yielding can help you get the advantage without having to try to overpower these people, which is essential. In order to be good at physical yielding, a lot of things have to come into play. You need to be well rooted. The lower part of your body needs to be strong and flexible so you can change your central equilibrium without getting tight. The body has to be relaxed, the breath has to be calm, and the mind has to be present. Now, while it may take a lifetime to master these skills, from day one, by incorporating the meditative arts into your life, you start to become more aware of these things inside yourself. And by doing that, you also start to become more aware of these things in other people. And this is where it starts to become pretty interesting. And now we're moving into what I call mental yielding. So when I'm more clear on these things and I can be more in tune with other people, if we're having a conversation and I say something that unsettles you, and I pick up on it right from that first sign of an imbalance, maybe even it's just an energetic change or a change in your breath or a change in your posture or your facial expression, whatever it is, it's a lot easier for me to adjust the conversation and keep us in a happy place than if I'm not paying attention to that. And pretty soon I'm so far off track, you want to slap me upside the head. And so learning how to use yielding in all of our communication is extremely powerful. It's great for our relationships. It's good for business, for sales, for negotiations. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can apply this strategy in our everyday life. Then the third pillar is mental yielding. And mental yielding is very much like, emotional yielding. Emotional yielding is very much like mental yielding, but it's with your own interpersonal conflicts. So it's like a lot of times things will happen to us and we'll respond and we'll go down this path and we might get an hour, a day, a week down that road and realize maybe that wasn't the best choice. But with yielding and our heightened awareness through using a meditation practice and having that be part of our lifestyle, oftentimes we can be more present when things happen analyze the scenario, and make a more educated choice that saves us a lot of heartache on the other side many times. Now, I've been explaining this idea of yielding now for many years, running this academy for 30 years. And one of the most common things I'll hear people say is, yielding makes a lot of sense. In fact, I do that all the time. And while I would agree in that I think everybody does some degree of yielding all the time, it's kind of like if you or I were to walk into a crime scene with a detective who's been on the job for 30 years, I guarantee you that person would see things about the timeline and the series of events that I know at least I would have no clue of. And the meditative arts helps us see things inside of ourselves and inside of other people that I truly believe most people will never have any clue of unless they are incorporating this kind of practice into their life.
I love that because we're, especially in the psychology field, you're taught more of like body language, but energy has a language too, which I'm finding out through this interview. So I think that's a once again an interesting concept
Yeah,
because
very much.
yeah, we're taught like, well, I don't want to trigger you, but it's like if we are paying attention to the energy or the mental, all of those things you just said, it just kind of seemed like you can almost pick up that you're triggering someone without them always having to communicate it in a sense.
Yeah, yes, and the cool thing is a lot of times you pick up on it before they even realize they're getting triggered. And if you can
Mm,
develop that kind of sensitivity, you can avoid those imbalances from ever happening.
wow, wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. And so, man, Jeff, man, the time just flew. This is some great information. How can listeners connect with you and follow you on your journey, or perhaps join the academy or be a part of your program? Where can they find you?
So they can reach out to me through theyieldingwarrior.com. And on that website, you can check out my online training program, which teaches you how to build an evolving life practice around the meditative arts using kind of all of those directions that we talked about earlier in this episode. There is the option for if you go to theyieldingwarrior.com/book, you could get a free copy of my book there. And then there's also the teacher training program. So if there's anybody out there that owns a yoga studio or martial arts studio, or maybe a life coach that wants to learn how to teach the meditative arts and integrate this into what you're doing, there's that avenue as well.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So before we end this episode, BYOK has a signature question, and the question is: if you could describe yourself in one word, what is it and why?
I would have to say consideration, because I believe that that is something that we should all do more of. And I think that if everybody was a little bit more considerate, the world would be a much better place.
I totally agree with you. I feel like the world is mostly about who is right and who is wrong. But you're right. Just respect people and be considerate of people's feelings, even if they differ from yours.
For, for sure.
Yes, love that. Love that. Jeff, I would just like to thank you for your flexibility and your understanding and your being considerate with all the little snacks that we've had throughout the interview. And I just thank you for also sharing so much information that I honestly was not aware of, and it's kind of put some things in my mind. And I really, yeah, I just really appreciate that. And listeners, meditation is like with anything; it's nothing that we learn overnight. As with anything, like Jeff said, it has to be about and follow through. And once you have evidence of something working, you'll be more prone to keep it up. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you again, Jeff, for being a part. Look forward to following you on your journey online and really appreciate you being here today.
Thanks again.
No problem. And until next time, listeners, don't forget to be kind to yourself and to each other. Bye.